I'd left replacing the most important feet on the roll cage until last, those on the main roll cage hoop, gaining experience on the peripheries. Cut the plates off square first, then into octagons, and then started rounding them off with the flap wheel. Taking my time, I sat down and just worked away because it was really important that I didn't go into the metal of the actual bar. Unlike with the other bars, no visible gap was appearing, so I decided to cut across through the plate. The cutting discs are narrow enough to do this. I was hoping this would have weakened it enough to let it go with a few taps of the hammer, but there were still no cracks appearing. I decided to continue on, cutting all the way across. I'd now removed a lot of the original 3mm plate. It was still quite solid, but I'd now work around the edges, just getting down at the tip of the bar with the flap wheel. Eventually it was wafer thin and it started to lift off. Came away with my fingers. I could see there was a little bit of weld at the tip of the tube, so I just cleared that off nice and flat. Then over to the other side to do the same job. This time it did come away with a few taps of the hammer. I tidied that up the same, so it was ready for the plates, which, if you remember, I made while I was doing the front legs and the 2 rear stabilizer plates. I gave them a bit of weld-through primer and took a break, returning later to bring the cage in, which is a little bit tight in my relatively small garage. I slipped those in underneath, and I was really glad to see the cage was just sitting straight down, really where I wanted it. I wasn't going to have to manipulate it and hold it in position. So I've got a feeling that the whole thing is sitting very happily in the car. I'll fit 3 bolts in each side to hold the plate down totally flat to the reinforcing plate below. I'll also bolt in the rear stabilizers, just so everything sits the way it's going to be. I checked the distance from the sill on both sides and the distance back to the floor under where the rear seat would have been and over the fuel tank. So I got it the same both sides. It was really just sitting there anyway. I put a tack on each side, just one little weld. Hopefully these will hold the plates exactly in position while I take it out. Careful not to knock it. Ready to weld all the way around with plenty of access in space outside the car. I wonder how many times it's been in and out at this stage, but I'm actually getting good at it. Became a little more difficult with the harness bar welded in. At least there's no windows in the car and the whole thing's going to be painted. Yeah, very limited space, so I'm actually propping it up on the inner wings of the car and using these ramps to support it at a good angle so that I can weld all the way around with as few stops as possible and restarting while it's still glowing. I shifted it a little bit and did the same on the other side. I cleaned off the welds with the wire wheel on the grinder, and then I was ready to refit it. If they had got twisted or moved out of position while taking the cage out the last time, it would be very frustrating to have to cut these off and start again, but they were fitting up nicely. Each bolt dropping through was a real relief. So I'll actually put in the front legs just to see how everything is sitting. They drop down onto the boxes that I made in the front. And I'm just slotting in a few bolts to hold it in position. The crossbar between the two A-pillars has to go into position before the last leg is lifted onto the box. Well, it still fits and is in much better condition than when I started, especially the feet that are what attach it to the car. So I'm very happy with that. I can't bolt it all in yet, despite the fact that I have a whole box here full of new bolts, nuts and washers from eFox Engineers, because I want to take it out one last time when I prepare it for paint and the interior of the car. I also have those plates that go up underneath, and I want to do some underfloor treatment before they go on. So the next phase in the project is going to be building some seat brackets to the FIA drawings.